Knitting 2 jumper sleeves at a time is much less difficult than what you might think, but it does require a few preparations before you can start with it. Here I have a jumper where I just posed with the body part. I made about, let's say, 10 centimeters of the body, so it will be easier to see where the sleeves start and where the underarm stitches are. So the yarn is currently attached to the body, but we're just gonna ignore that. And once the stitches are picked up, what I like to do is I like to stuff the body, including any working yarn if there is any, because it's still a work in progress, into a little bag, like a project bag. I like to use some with some string that I can tighten, and then the body is gonna sit in the bag. It's not gonna interfere with me working on the sleeves. This jumper has sleeves that has 60 stitches each, and I have previously picked up 12 stitches for the underarm when I was starting on the body. So each of the sleeves is going to have 72 stitches, and then it will gradually be decreased. I have now placed a stitch marker in the middle of the 60 stitches that's on my cable. So this is now sitting between 30 and 30 stitches, but my beginning of the round will be actually in the middle of the underarm, so in the middle of these 12 stitches. We will have to pick them up, so we will start at the bottom of the underarm for each of the sleeves. When you knit two sleeves or two socks or anything, two at a time, it will sit on a long needle, and I'm using my Chiagu 4mm circular because the cable is excellent. It has no memory at all, so it won't bother me when I'm working the magic loop. I am going to pick up the underarm stitches and then obviously the sleeve stitches as well from each. But the way we want to do it is that our stitches, just like with a pair of socks, will be sitting on my magic loop like so. So the back part of my jumpers are gonna be on the front needle and the front part on the back needle. So basically it's like you would fold it in half, and they will be sitting side by side on my needles, a bit like this. And that way, as I knit, it's always gonna be actually this way around because I'm starting here. So it's always gonna be knitting the back stitches from the middle of the underarm to the top of the shoulder from the first sleeve. Then I'm going to knit the back stitches from the middle of the underarm to the top of the shoulder from the second sleeve. Then we're gonna turn the magic loop and go from the top of the shoulder to the bottom on the second sleeve, and finally we're gonna do the top of the shoulder to the bottom on the first sleeve. So increases, decreases, pattern changes, color changes will always happen in the same round at the same time. There is no confusion. The two sleeves will definitely be identical. And the only part that's it's not even difficult, but just needs you to kind of pay attention, is where you actually pick it up. So we've got two needles now. I have changed the stopper to a working needle just for the beginning. The other one is still a stopper, so it stops my stitches from running off as I pick up the stitches with my needle that is going to be used for the magic loop. It's actually easy for you guys to see. So the purple is just to hold my stitches at the moment. The black is just also just to work the stitches off the current cables, and my red with the silver ends will be my essential magic loop that I'm gonna use for knitting these two sleeves all at once. So much for preparations. So all you need to do is you need to get two small balls of yarn, which is the same amount. I have previously split my full skein of wool into two 20-gram two 20-gram balls and a 60-gram ball. Because this is a fade jumper as well, it might be a little bit more difficult. Do the maths, check how many stitches you have for the body, how many for the sleeves, divide your yarn accordingly so that it's approximate amount of yarn needed for the sleeves. If you are knitting a sweater which is all the same color and you've got lots of balls of wool, then go ahead, just use a separate ball for each of the sleeves and more balls obviously will be needed for the body. Because this is a fade sweater, I had to do this thing. So I've got 2 separate balls of yarn, and the only thing to remember here is you have to make sure that you don't accidentally knit the second sleeve with the wool that you used for the first sleeve and join them, because that is a typical mistake that we tend to make, and I made it more than I care to admit. So there's 1 ball for the left sleeve, 1 ball for the right sleeve, and the way I will do it is I'm picking up the right sleeve first. So here is the front of the jumper, as you can see. So I'm gonna put it the way that we basically would be wearing it. So we're gonna pick up the stitches from the underarm to the top of the shoulder first, and then we're gonna do the same here, that we're gonna pick up the stitches from the underarm to the top of the shoulder next, and then we're gonna go down, and that way these sleeves are gonna sit side by side like this. Easy peasy. I've got my yarn, and I've got the place where I need to start and the place where I need to pause. And all we need to find is basically the middle stitch of this underarm, which has 12 stitches. What I also like to do at this point is, instead of picking up 6 stitches here from the underarm and then carry on with these stitches, to prevent a big hole from happening, I actually like to pick up a 7th stitch, which I will then close during the first round of stitches. This one is also a pattern sweater, so I'm going to be working in the same exact pattern as what the established pattern is, which is a knit one, purl one, twisted rib. So the knit stitches are worked through the back loop. When I'm picking up the stitches for the underarm, I probably won't worry much about the pattern. We just carry on after in the first row, especially since I'm going to need to do a decrease, which is not really going to be part of the pattern either. So don't worry too much about the underarm. It's not a place that anybody's going to scrutinize anyway, so make your life easy. Righty-ho, here's my yarn. I'm going to join this in the middle, again, approximately the middle. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the middle will be, I would say, somewhere here. I'm gonna just go with this. Again, it doesn't really matter. We're gonna end up with the right amount of stitches after we've made a round. So picking up stitches from the underarm is essentially just going under those 2 legs of these stitches and pick up the yarn. The first one is always a bit tricky. This you can actually do with a crochet hook. It might be easier. Don't think I have one handy now. It's never one when you need one, eh? So, come on. I'm gonna go under both legs, so I'm not creating an overly huge hole there. And pull it through, if only. There we go. So once the first is in, the rest is gonna be much easier. So I'm aiming for 6 stitches here and then a 7th in this sort of hole, which I might actually leave that one with it. And then with the decrease, we're gonna be able to close that hole fairly nicely. So there's 1. I'm just going to check where to go in next. 2. Please don't split on me. 3, 4, 5. Goodness me. Too many needles and too much yarn. 5, 6, and that's the 6th before we come to that big gap or hole. I'm just gonna find what this cheeky piece of yarn is because it's really bugging me. That's just my yarn tail. It's a bit longer, but it's fine. We can use it to weave in the ends and close the holes on the underarm later on. So it doesn't matter if it's a bit longer, right? So that's 7, sorry, that's 6. You can always snug the first one by pulling on the tail. So that's 6 stitches on my needle right now. And I'm going to just add a cheeky 7th here at this point. Just gonna do it with one strand and we'll snug it up later. Nice and tight, so make sure that you pull this one super tight. Okay, and then what you have to do is you have to push this needle back to work with. I have actually pulled the cable out a little bit where I put my stitch marker here, so the cable has been pulled out. It's almost like another V magic loop, just so I know where to stop working. And now I'm gonna continue with the actual established pattern. So as you can see, we're starting with a purl stitch here. So this is going to be a purl and then a twisted knit all the way until the stitch marker. And at that point, we're gonna pause because we're gonna do the same for the first half of this second sleeve. This is actually a really quick progress, so I'm not even gonna bother pausing the video. Instead, I'm going to keep talking and explaining what I'm doing. So all the way to the stitch marker, we are now working our way on the back of the right hand side sleeve, from the underarm through the back to the top. And then we're gonna do the similar part with the left sleeve. We're gonna start at the underarm, but because obviously that's the left sleeve, we're gonna go on to the front part of the sleeve to the top of the shoulder, because obviously when you knit, you have to go around clockwise. You can't go the other way around unless you're left-handed, which we aren't. Okie dokie, so I got there. I'm just knitting this last twisted knit stitch, and this is it. So I'm just gonna let go of this needle, and my stitch marker is actually no longer needed because I have now reached that part, and with the magic loop it's going to be very obvious always. So here we are. I've got 6 stitches from the underarm, 1 cheeky stitch I'm gonna make disappear in the first round, and then the pattern, established pattern stitches, 30 stitches from the back of the sleeve. Pulling the magic loop a little bit gently, so I've got more thing to work with. And now here's my working yarn. I'm gonna put this to the left so that I don't mix it up, because now I need my other working yarn to start on the next sleeve. And that one is already has the stitch marker in also. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull out the cable ready to be working with the next needle. I don't pull it out fully yet because we first have to pick up the stitches. And where I just finished picking up my stitches from my first sleeve's backside, I'm gonna come over here, find the middle of that other underarm, and pick up 6 + 1 stitches from the other underarm as well. So here it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, somewhere here. So I'm gonna start right here. That's gonna be our beginning of round. I don't tend to use stitch markers when I'm doing 2 sleeves at a time, once they are established, once they are on the needle, because I just know it's the underarm where the rounds start. It's very easy to see, but by all means use a stitch marker if you wish, but it's just gonna constantly fall off the needle because that's where your magic loop is gonna start. So I think it's unnecessary. Feel free to use a removable stitch marker and just stick it in the first row, and that's just kind of gives you an extra reassurance that you're definitely in the right side of your project, and it's a new beginning of a round. So I'm gonna do 6 stitches from this cast on edge. Once again, this tail yarn is just bugging me. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I started in the wrong spot. I'm too close, so I'm gonna just double check because I think I might have slipped. Definitely not started in the right place. Never mind. So this is the way where you can double check your work as well. So here I started here. I should have started here. Yeah, just double check where your middle is, because that's quite important that you're gonna be in the middle of your stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go, 5 and 6. And once the 6 stitches are there, remember we're gonna have to do a 7th for good luck. Oh, this one is so tight. Okay, and here's the biggish gap. Sorry, I'm probably wandering out of the camera as well. So I've got the 6 stitches on the underarm, and here's this biggish gap where I'm gonna do a 7th. And then we're gonna carry on the same way as before with the front part of the left sleeve all the way to the shoulder top in the established pattern. I join you when that's all done. This is me back to the last few stitches of this front part. Here we go. So what we have now, I'm gonna show you, is the back of the right sleeve to the shoulder top on one end of the needle with the little ball of yarn attached, and then a separate ball of yarn attached to the front part of the left sleeve all the way to the top of the shoulder. So that's half of our work done. And now we're going to turn the jumper around. Here we go. At this point, I have a very big yarn tangling situation, which we will sort before we continue working. So we have the yarn that's attached to this side here, and then I'm gonna put the other mini ball over to the other side so it's not in my way. Here we go. Tangles sorted. Yeah, just always, you know, when you're turning around or when you're starting to go with the other sleeve, just sort your yarn so it doesn't get too tangled. This is the name of the game. Okay. Another thing I do at this stage is I'm pulling the needle, or if you work with waste yarn to hold your stitches off your sleeves, I suggest that before you start this, obviously you're gonna have to put it back on a needle, otherwise this won't work. Okay, so I've got this ball of yarn ready for that sleeve, this ball of yarn ready for this sleeve, and then this ball of yarn is absolutely useless to us right now, so it's just gonna hang out in the back and hopefully won't interfere with our project. Okay, so here we are. I have to also pull, I'm gonna remove the stitch marker from here as well because we won't be needing that anymore. And I'm gonna also pull this cable so that we are ready to work. These cables are very annoying, but they're gonna be gone very, very soon from our life for good. Okay, so working yarns here, I'm gonna lift it over to the front here, and then we just need enough here to start working with the magic loop. So pull the working needle far enough to be able to start with the magic loop. Just make sure that you don't accidentally pull it out on the other side, and we're gonna continue in pattern from this side. I'll get back to you when we reached the bit where we're gonna pick up underarm stitches again. I am here at the last few stitches before the second part of the underarm. Here's the last twisted knit stitch, and we're gonna do the reverse as what we did at the beginning. So we're gonna pick up one cheeky stitch here and then 6 from the underarm, and that extra stitch will disappear in the first round. We're gonna do a decrease to close that gap. So this one just has to be super tight, remember? And then we are here at the underarm, and here's where we started. You can tell by the yarn tail as well as the first stitch. So we just have to get 6 stitches picked up in this part, starting here, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just struggling to see where I am at the moment. If you don't have enough stitches, then just go back and start again so that you definitely, so that's what I'm gonna do now, because I couldn't really fit them all in. I think I skipped one by accident right here. Yeah, because that one is a bit tricky to see. That was like the corner stitch. So I'll start again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because this was my corner stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I just need one more here. That's the last one that I'm picking up. 6, and we got all the way around. So this is where my stitch is coming out of. Sorry, there. So this is where I'm gonna secure the other end, making sure it doesn't run off the needle, and pull this bit, but I'm also pulling the magic loop. So this is one sleeve all the way around picked up. This is where the magic loop is going to happen when we're switching from working on the bottom to top side to working top to bottom. And now again, it's a very important part where I have to make sure that this ball of yarn goes to the right and the other ball of yarn comes into play. This is just something you have to consciously pay attention to, not to mix the two balls and accidentally join your two sleeves by knitting from the wrong ball. Here we go, and now with the other sleeve, again, we're just gonna continue in pattern until we reach the other underarm, where we're gonna once again pick up one stitch from that corner, which we will then close with a decrease around, when we're doing the first full round, and then 6 stitches from the underarm. This time I'm not gonna pause the camera, I'm just gonna show you the whole process because it's only 30 stitches in total, so it won't take me that long to knit. So what we're gonna do is, once we picked up all the underarm stitches, I'm gonna just quickly show you what it looks like to have both sleeves on, and then after that it's no-brainer, it's just following the pattern, always working the upward going stitches first and the downward going stitches second, and the beginning of round will always be the underarm of the right sleeve. Righty. Oh. Here we go at the last couple of stitches. This is the last one, and this is where the I've just lost that needle entirely. So that needle is now done, out of our life. So was the other one. I didn't even mention that. So all these cables and stoppers are now done. So much simpler and so much easier to see what we're doing. This yarn tail I'm gonna actually just tuck inside of the work, so it's not bothering me. And now comes the last part where we just pick up 6 underarm stitches plus a cheeky V corner stitch. So corner first, remember to make sure that one is really tight, and then and I just knocked the camera completely, so sorry about that. Sometimes I get a bit overexcited about these things. And then I'm gonna start, got the corner stitch, and I'm gonna need to pick up another 6 stitches from this underarm. Here we go, I gently pull it. Also gently tug on my yarn tail so that this first stitch is going to be a bit snugger. There you have it. I'm going to turn it so that it's ready to work. Taking this yarn with me and this yarn on the other side. So don't worry about that. That yarn is not even of any interest to us. Here's the project. Yarn tails tucked into the inside, working yarns always placed on the correct side, ready to go. So here's my, it's not the neatest balls ever. Here's my little sweater project. Okay, so one ball of yarn for left sleeve, one ball of yarn for right sleeve, little gap in between, magic loop established. We are starting underarm and up, shoulder and down, shoulder and down. And as you want to start working, all you do is you push the front needle back slightly and pull the right needle out, just so you can start doing the magic loop. I like to squish up my stitches because it makes for faster knitting, and if you like, you can use a much longer needle for magic loop to make it more comfortable